GBNews, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Remember this.
There will never be a two-tier sentencing approach under my watch or under this Labour government.
Gosh, that's funny, isn't it? Because it feels like maybe that... Anyway, remember the Sentencing Council, the body that tried to introduce two-tier justice in favour of ethnic minorities? Well, moments ago, Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Minister, has said he's going to scrap it and... Gosh, you could just throw a big no over that, couldn't you? Take them to Heathrow. Anyway, Britain is bracing itself for nationwide protest tomorrow, especially on university campuses, and they're timing it for October the 7th. Exactly that time of the massacre of Jews, and there are going to be people out in Britain campaigning and protesting on our campuses. And... Well, you want to stick around for the Late Show live at midnight, as Bev Turner will be speaking to someone live from what a load of left-wingers performatively call Gaza. Yes, you might have heard that right. Meanwhile, remember this?
Been in for 3 months. In that time, we've ended the junior doctors' strikes.
Junior doctors have voted to strike again. Look at that. Fabulous. Yeah, great. Yeah, brilliant. They're just striking again. I mean, why care for people, you know, when you could just strike? Joining us this evening is the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. We've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and GB News legend Leo Kirst. But first, let's get those headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Hello, I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom, and we'll start with some breaking news. The US president says peace talks between Israel and Hamas are making tremendous progress and that he expects a deal soon. Hamas has agreed to parts of Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan, including freeing hostages, but has so far rejected calls to disarm. It comes 2 years on since the October 7th attacks by Hamas, which triggered the war. 1,200 people were killed and hundreds taken hostage. Trump says the first phase of the deal could be completed this week.
I think we're going to have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza. But, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
France has been plunged into fresh political turmoil after Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu quit within a month of taking to office. He was the country's 5th Prime Minister in under 2 years and blamed gridlock in Parliament for his departure. It leaves President Emmanuel Macron facing mounting pressure to call early elections or risk another short-lived government. Stocks in Paris have fallen sharply since. The Conservatives are expected to announce plans to abolish the Sentencing Council if they win the next election. The changes would see ministers put in charge of sentencing policy, arguing that the current situation has resulted in a so-called two-tier nightmare, with some people being treated different by the courts based on their gender and ethnicity. The Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick is expected to make the pledge when he addresses the party conference tomorrow. A funeral has been held for one of the men who was killed in the terror attack on a synagogue in Manchester last week, with some there calling him a quiet man who became a hero. Adrian Dolby tried to block the doors as the attacker, Jihad al-Shami, entered with a knife. He was killed alongside Melvin Kravitz. 3 people remain in hospital with serious injuries, and Police Chief Sir Stephen Watson said the force are using every available resource.
I do want to reassure people that no stone is being left unturned. We will get to the bottom of what has happened, and as those facts emerge into the public domain, we'll be sure, of course, to communicate those.
First-year doctors in England have voted overwhelmingly in favour of strike action over job insecurity. The British Medical Association says 97% back the move on a 65% turnout, calling it a clear mandate for industrial action. Talks with the government are ongoing, but the union warns they must deliver solutions on both pay and jobs to avoid walkouts. And tributes are pouring in for the much-loved author Dame Jilly Cooper, who's died at the age of 88. The Queen has described her as a legend and a wonderfully witty and compassionate friend. Cooper was best known for her so-called bonkbusters, including Riders, Rivals and Polo. She died unexpectedly after a fall on Sunday morning. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome along to Late Edition. Let's get straight into Tuesday's newspaper front pages. The UK Gaza protest going ahead today on anniversary of October the 7th massacre. I mean, it's just disgraceful. We'll talk about that. The Daily Telegraph, MI5 kept in dark in China spy trial fiasco. It's on the Telegraph. I can't help but feel as though that maybe if the news agenda was a little bit less terror-y, that might be getting more of an outing. But there we go. The Daily Mail, biggest phone gang smashed. Apparently they've managed to crack a phone gang that was sending all of your stuff to Hong Kong and then, I don't know, presumably China. At the Metro, time to call your lawyer. Police dismantle huge phone theft gang. That's great. You know what else they could do now? Is the gang of people bringing illegals across the channel. That would be really nice. Yeah. That's the headline.
Too difficult. Although, funnily enough, a couple of guys they've nicked are both Afghans, so it's not...
Really?
Yeah, they're keeping it in the club, all right.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I wonder whether or not they've been living at the taxpayers' expense. Anyway, The Times, PM's anger at student protests on October the 7th. The Daily Mirror, hope in hell. It's good. I mean, is that a page about the Daily Mirror's chances of success? They haven't got a hope in hell.
It's about their own company, Reach, which is work in hell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they fire people every 10 seconds. They've virtually got no journalists at all, and I feel very sorry for anybody who works there.
Do you remember that time I worked for you?
Well, that was no work in hell, wasn't it? I mean, the business went bust.
OK, the Daily Express. Tories pledge blitz on scumbag store thieves. The Guardian. Labour's new visa rules put NHS at risk, warn nurses. By the way, no paper, unless I missed it, seems to be covering the fact that junior doctors are going to go on strike again. But anyway, and the Sun, romp impeach Jilly. Yes, that's the passing of Jilly Cooper, who is also named on, I think, pretty much every other national newspaper front page. Sad loss. The Queen of the Bonk Buster. Right, OK, well, let's get stuck into this, my panel. We're going to go straight in with the Daily Telegraph on this. And it's actually not their lead story. It's a little nip, but it's at the bottom. But I think it's significant. Calvin, the Telegraph are reporting that neighbours of Mr. Jihad are saying that they actually reported him to Greater Manchester Police 5 years ago, but nothing was done about it.
Yes, and the reason that they got alarmed was because he was preaching the Quran to their children actually in the street. And his dress had changed. So instead of looking like Benjamin here, he went over to his traditional Syrian garb, and with generally being totally religiously mad. And I suspect that the people who reported them were probably Muslims themselves, right? And then, unfortunately, nothing happened. Now, I don't really blame the police in this case because, you know, how are you to know where that line is, which goes between somebody...
Well, it's difficult because
you should probably check, though, shouldn't you?
But of course, you know, we've been told by police that we need to be aware that there are very different contexts for jihad.
Well, yeah, and also this week we saw the BBC Panorama. They had a 7-month investigation into the police, and they found a policeman who, after a lot of plying and with drinks and a lot of prodding and leading questions, said that Islam is a problem, and this was seen as an absolutely horrific, terrible thing for him to have said. When in reality, it's this sort of political correctness that's absolutely stymieing the police, and we've seen this in Manchester itself. The security guard at the Manchester arena bombing, he just let a jihadi walk through, big beard, backpack, the works, obviously completely out of place at a pop concert for Ariana Grande. He let him walk through because he was afraid of looking racist. And obviously the police, you know, number one, they'll be too politically correct to do anything about a jihadi preaching in the street. Number two, they're too busy focusing on tweets by evil white gammons.
Yeah, well, quite. I mean, but there are serious questions. There's also questions to answer for the family here, Benjamin. So one of his wives has claimed that he wanted to join. He told her he wanted to join ISIS. To which my point that would be, well, at what point did you alert the police?
Yeah, I mean, you would also ask the question of how free was his wife. I believe she was a Muslim convert. If he was having these extremist views, then you start to wonder how well he would treat those around him. The idea that the neighbours reported this, you know, I can't imagine. I think that the level at which you would ring the police would have to be quite considerable concern before you would take that upon yourselves. And so the question that Greater Manchester Police have to answer is, they say they have no record of this. Well, if this 999 call did happen, then was it the case that whoever took the call failed to pass it on to the counter-terror people, that it was failed to be escalated? What went wrong that people noticed in the community, which ought to be the most reliable source, and nothing happened? And that's what's got to be answered here, because if this can happen now, then how many hundreds or thousands of other situations are there where neighbours or colleagues have come forward and nothing happened?
I'm not going to have a situation where there is a timeline that starts 4 or 5 years ago and something happens today. I can't accept. The police have every single burden in the world is now being thrown at them, and everything. Every time they do anything, they end up on blinking Panorama. Who, by the way, if BBC carried out the same investigation actually into their own people, it wouldn't be half a dozen or a dozen people suspended. It would probably be hundreds, as they all got smashed and all gone explaining how they loved Muslims and how they hated white people. So, but anyway, I don't accept. I am not going to accept that everything in the world, this one either, is actually at the door of the police.
But can I just say, I would just point out, you know, they can't predict the future and they have to be reasonable. But if they have no record, then that would suggest that this call wasn't followed up in any way, because then there would clearly be a record of an investigation. And I think that is a very valid criticism.
Or that the neighbours never did it. Never actually picked up the phone, and actually what they're trying to do is drop the police.
Can you imagine that conversation at home there? It's like, sorry, Derek, you did call the police that time that Mr. Jihad was out there, didn't he? Yeah, no, I did, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I think the Home Office have... this is to fall at their door as well. Who rubber-stamped that application for to be a British citizen? When the piece of paper comes across your desk and it says Mr. Jihad, who gets that stamp out? It's like, welcome to Britain. You don't know. No, you at least change your name of Dave.
Welcome home, Mr. Jihad.
I was once on a flight in Qatar, and they did a call on the tannoy within the plane for a Mr. Iraqi Jihad. And that it's not the most reassuring name in the world while you're already on the flight.
No, quite. Anyway, that's enough about jihad. So, a spokesperson for Greater Manchester Police said, we're aware of reports circulating which suggest Jihad al-Shami had previously been reported to police due to the concerns over possible extremist behaviour. This is inaccurate. We stand by the previous statement that Jihad al-Shami was not known to counter-terror policing. However, they were then asked if any other family members were known to counter-terrorism policing, and they said they were looking into it. So, I don't know. Was it Mrs. Jihad? Was it Mr. Jihad Senior? Was it one of the little Jihads? We don't know, do we? It could be any of the Jihads.
You know, when you talk of Mr. Jihad, I just think of Mr. G in Summer Heights High. You remember that comedy?
I do remember. It was a good comedy. Anyway, let's go to the Times now, because... talking of jihad, UK Gaza protests are going to go ahead tomorrow. If you're watching us on the replay, it will be today because it will be the morning, and it will be October the 7th, a desperately sad day, a desperately sad memory of what happened there, that awful Hamas terrorist attack that, you know, has led to, frankly, well, Britain, obviously, Israel will never be the same after it, but I mean, Britain definitely has not been the same since that happened. And now students are going to be protesting on the Times about it. Basically in favour of Palestine.
Well, yeah, well, it's beyond just Palestine, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a very good piece by Matthew Syed in the Sunday Times in which he went to the Palestine Action demonstration at Trafalgar Square on Saturday. OK, he's a very liberal kind of guy, right? I don't really approve of much of the stuff he writes. This time, what he wrote was he interviewed over a reasonable period, about 24 protesters, with the exception of 2 of them. It was quite clear that the reason they were at the Palestine Action demonstration, and the thing that unified them all, was hatred of Jews. We can't just believe that this is just a Gaza issue, right? This is a much wider issue. Now, had it been anybody else but Matthew Syed, I suspect I would not have embraced what was being said.
Well, they actually wouldn't have spoken to him. See, this is the thing.
Well, they actually when they recognised it, when he asked them the simple question, right? This was their description: 3 50-year-old women with brown skins but British accents. When he asked them the question, do you think Hamas have any responsibility? At that, they told him to F off, piss off, and you're an effing racist, right? And this piece really came to me that actually we look upon it as though they're trying to free Gaza and all that stuff. And actually what this is a unifying moment for a rival religion, right, who clearly hate Jews, and it's it's well worth reading, and it's very upsetting.
Of all the days to do, see, this is the thing, Leo. You know, of all the days to do, we had sort of the deliberate protest the evening after the Manchester attempted massacre.
Yeah, it was almost a celebration.
Well, basically, it was a party. Yeah, yay! And then you've got now October the 7th. You know, I just think the only reason you would want to go to a pro-Palestine demonstration to commemorate the massacre of Jews would be if you might be a raging anti-Semite.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Starmer has lambasted these Gaza rallies as un-British. And yes, they are. We've got separate populations of people inside this island, but they're geographically next to us, but they're separated by about 1,400 years. And big swathes of those populations have carried their historical enmity against the Jews with them. Yeah. Look at how many Muslim countries have expelled or genocided Jews. This is why Israel has to exist. Tunisia, Algeria, Iraq, Syria, all these places. And more places have expelled the Jews.
They pay the Jews to go,
Yeah. So we've got a protest here to honour our martyrs. This is at a university to celebrate 2 years of resistance since Hamas murdered about 1,200 people and took 251 hostages. I get that university campuses have always been, places where there's a hotbed, isn't there, of quite radical thought to an extent. Traditionally, you might argue that it was quite extreme left-wing or whatever, or even just things like, I wouldn't say this was, radical by today's standards. Some of the civil rights movements in America, all of that. But I mean, we will see the next generation tomorrow at some of Britain's top universities basically lining up to celebrate a massacre.
Do you know, I was in the UAE recently and someone high up in diplomatic circles there told me that the Emiratis, the natives to the UAE, don't want their kids going to university in Britain because they're worried they will be radicalised in Britain compared to growing up in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And I've heard the same thing of Saudis as well. I think that tells you exactly what you need to know about the perception of radicalisation in British universities. I mean, the Prime Minister writes in the Times that this has been used as a despicable excuse to attack British Jews. Well, and look, I do believe that he feels that because he's raising his kids as Jewish, his wife is Jewish, but you have to base this on the actions, and the actions have let this carry on. And I don't think that all these protests should be banned. That would not be a British thing to do. But the idea that you can have these protests in perpetuity, drain resources, and do them on the day Jews were murdered in Israelis, that is the problem.
So look, tomorrow, or again, if you're watching the repeat of this today, unfortunately, I can see what's going to happen. I'm going to come to air at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, and I'm probably going to have loads of footage for you of, like, lunatic teenagers on campus, probably quite a few of their lecturers as well, just saying some utterly filthy stuff. And I'm just going to, great, I'm going to have a day of that again. Fantastic. But do tune in. Anyway.
I'll tell you what GB News should do. They should put out some secret filmers, perhaps get those Panorama guys, because they won't be doing anything, because they've done their bit about the cops. Get those and literally go on the campuses and actually do a Matthew Said. Simply walk round and just say, how do you feel about the Jews? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about Gaza? And compile that together.
It might be...
And I suspect we actually probably already know what the outcome...
Might be time for me to reignite Patrick from Vietnam, who, of course, went to Calais not so long ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
by the way, if you went and did that, by the way, they'd know who you were, and you would get an absolute kicking, I suspect.
Yeah, I would. But they're the nice, tolerant lefties. Anyway, we'll be taking you live to the GB News party at Tory party conference. Well, there he is, Matthew Torbett, who has got a shocking story you're not going to believe. Stay tuned.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Talk to our favourite space expert, Andy Lound. Good morning, Andy. Because, some people would say, well, why does it matter? But it changes our perspective, doesn't it, of cosmic evolution?
Yes, good morning, Beth. Yes, it does. It's quite an important discovery. And again, it just shows that science constantly moves on. The instrument they've used, Gravity Plus, has taken the light from 4 major telescopes and actually analysed that of a black hole. And at the centre of the black hole, you have the quasar, which is the active nuclei of a black hole. And surrounding that is a ring of dust and gas, the accretion disk. And it's thought that the black holes were obviously feeding on this, the materials falling into the black hole. Now, that was measured at 800 times the mass of our star, the sun. However, when they were looking at it very carefully with the new instruments, better resolution, they found that what's quite exciting is the fact that the radiation which surrounds the black hole and part of this accretion disk is actually blasting a lot of this dust and gas out, away from the region. So the electromagnetic radiation and the various interactions is blasting much of this material away, which means, of course, it's not eating up all that material, so the black hole therefore could be up to 10 times smaller than they actually thought. This is a really important discovery because we're trying to understand why there were such massive black holes in the early universe, and our physics wasn't really fitting in with that. But now, with this new instrument and the new measurements we're doing, we're getting a better handle. It does mean, of course, that a lot of the objects we've seen in the early universe now, and looking at those early quasars, we're having to do recalculations and redo a resetting. But it will help the physics of understanding how the early universe formed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Now, I don't want to kick a man when he's down, but the Tory party conference managed this blunder today. When Labour negotiates, well, it should say Britain loses, but it says Britty-Ann. I mean, ugh, gosh, yeah, not great. Is it the country that's supposed to be trying to govern? Well, it gets worse, because my next guest, Matthew Torbit, is joining us from the GB News party at Tory party conference, but he wrote this on X to give you an understanding of how quiet Conservative conference is. The fringe event I was due to be speaking at on Wednesday has been cancelled. The footfall is so low, it's been decided it would be largely pointless. Something quite sad about how dead all of this is. Well, I'm joined now by the man himself, former Labour Party advisor, to be fair, but everyone's favourite lefty, Matthew Torbit, live from the GB News party in Manchester. Matthew, thank you very much. So come on, give us the truth. How dead is Tory party conference?
I think it seems to go through a couple of different cycles. There's half the people that are quite despondent, they're coming here out of loyalty, feel like that something's got to maybe change at some point. And then today, the people that I've interacted with, I think are actually a little bit deluded. They don't realise why they lost. They think the voters will come back eventually. Nigel's a bit of a flash in the pan and it's all going to be all right in the end. And actually, I don't think it's going to be all right for anybody at the moment other than Reform, who are flying high in the polls.
Well, I was there, reported from it last year, and I think I probably did the year before that as well. I must say, it's normally pretty bustling. I actually thought it had much more energy to it than the Labour conferences that I'd gone to the same years previously. This year, is it quite empty? I mean, some of the pictures seem like you could have fired a cannon in that auditorium and wouldn't hit anyone.
No, it has felt a little bit like that. I mean, I've actually been here before. We once snuck Barry Gardner, also GB News regular, into the 1922 party, pretending he was the Foreign Secretary, so he could go and have FaceTime with every Cabinet Minister about his private member's bill. Now, normally in the 1922 party, it's wall-to-wall with MPs, you can't move, it's the real sort of place to be. I went last night, and to tell you how little respect there is, Kemi actually got heckled by somebody. I think she was saying partway through her speech, what I can guarantee you is I am trying my best, and somebody heckled, yes, that's part of the problem. That doesn't strike me as the party where all is well. I know I thought it was quite good. That doesn't strike me where all is well, and you know, this is I'm astounded at how quiet it's been, and that's why I feel a bit sad. You know, I'm not a Conservative person, but this is the party of Disraeli and Churchill and Thatcher even, and you know, it feels like it's petering out.
Well, fair enough. Well, obviously, I can hear some people. I mean, GB News regulars will know you. I can hear some people saying this is what happens. You interview a Labour Party member about the Tory Party conference. They're not going to be that happy about it. But can I just ask you? There's the GB News party ringing in the background there. Is at least that okay?
I'm not just saying it, and I'm not just saying this either. It's the best party of the week, quite easily. There is a competitor of GB News that's got a party over the road, and I reckon there's nobody there because every Tory MP's here, a lot of commentators, a lot of other people, and I'm enjoying myself. I'll tell you the truth, Patrick, I don't really want to be here talking to you. I can't wait to get back in there.
Right, well, let's leave it. And he's, of course, talking about the Spectator, whose parties are rubbish. Thank you very much, Matthew, actually, I shouldn't say that for no obvious reasons. But both the parties are equally as good. Anyway,
have you seen that YouGov poll tonight, in which the YouGov poll of Conservatives says the following: 2/3 of them want some kind of deal done with Reform right away, and 36% say Badenoch should be leader, but 45% say that Jenrick should be leader. But there's 14% who think they will win the next general election, which is the point that Matthew was making. There are a load of nutters in the Conservative Party right now, and those people should be getting on that mental health pip.
Well,
because there'll be some money in it.
Possibly. Let's just talk about the activist judges that Robert Jenrick is going to sack. So this is something that's come out of Tory party conference. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Minister, is saying that he's just going to sack judges who to tackle the pro-migrant bias. He's also saying as well that he's going to do away with the Sentencing Council, and he seems to be saying that the Sentencing Council is the one that has basically administered two-tier justice in favour of ethnic minorities, and he's just going to get rid of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he should get rid of it or just put it in favour of straight white men. I think, it's about time. It's about time. And if it's fair, they've already made the precedent that it's fair to discriminate against people based on their characteristics. So yeah, why can't the white man have a chance?
Finally,
have a little bite of the pie.
Finally,
you know what I mean?
Just gosh, when's our day in the sun?
Yeah, I mean, considering we're now getting blamed for terror attacks that we had absolutely nothing to do with, according to Gary Neville, Islamist terror attacks are caused by white men.
Well, I think white men have got more than enough chance on this programme, at least. What I'd say is, I think Robert Jenrick's suggestion, it just wants to grab a headline by basically saying we'll effectively dictate what the sentences can be. I don't think that's a very British thing to do. It's not the nature of how our legal system, our court system works. Parliament is sovereign. It can outline what the laws, can set the laws, and it can outline the guidance that they have to go by. But the idea that they'd be passing down more specific rules to judges, taking away their impartiality, I think that's a very dangerous road.
No, I think this is absolutely essential. Our judiciary, I mean, the whole apparatus of the state, but in particular, our judiciary has been infiltrated and seized by far-left activists who aren't acting in the interests of the nation or the people.
You know, one of the things I'm just utterly sick of seeing, and it is, I hate to say it, I mean, it is pretty much every day, where someone will be allowed to stay in Britain before they've gone on and killed, like, their entire family and their pet, and then set fire to a school or something.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and go, right, who kept them in the country? And then it'll be this judge, and it'll be someone like, this isn't a real person, it'll be like Pippa Horton-Jones. You're like, all right, let's have a look at what Pippa used to do. And Pippa used to work pro bono for a refugee charity. And now she's found a way to be an immigration.
Well,
she's keeping them all in the country.
Well, that is the way to actually get preferment, isn't it? Let's be honest about it. That they invest their time in trying to become judges in particular areas by actually doing jobs like that. So this is why I'm very much in favour of the American system, where actually, depending on which government is in charge, they can then appoint a Supreme Court, which means that during that period, it will either go to the left and then later to the right. Actually, because what happens now, judges, like journalists, are predominantly of the left.
Well, you get judges and prosecutors elected in America as well. I mean, if we had a chance to vote on our judges, we'd have a different set of judges.
But I think that's dangerous, and you should be careful what you wish for. You might want it because you think it will achieve the ends you like, but would you want David Lammy deciding the specific sentence for a specific crime or having more influence? I suspect you wouldn't, and he's the Justice Secretary right now.
He's aligned with the judges we've got at the moment, so how is it any different? I mean, just because he's not appointing them, they're all from the exact same strata.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I've got one or two friends who are judges, and they would say that it's dominated by older, slightly more conservative people. So I'm not
Clearly
sure.
Not.
I think
if we're not deporting refugees because they don't like a certain flavour of chicken nuggets in Albania, then
that's not accurate for a start. But also, I do think
it's 100% accurate.
Well, it's not, because the judge in that trial said that the chicken nuggets was not sufficient to keep him here. There were other reasons for that child's safety. It's just that made an exciting headline.
What was it even mentioned?
Why was it even mentioned? This is the thing. You've got the Caribbean woman who's like Latvian husband didn't want to go because he didn't like spicy food or the weather. So why is this even a thing?
I just think
flying. The paedophile had a fear of flying. So
I think the impartiality,
the
independence of our judges is a pillar of our democracy, and it's served us pretty well for a long time. Changing it on the hoof for a headline for a failing party like the Tories, I'm not sure it's wise.
Not serving us at all.
I do think that I'm very irritated actually by the Conservatives actually now wanting to give £5,000 a head to some youngsters in order that they can buy a house. I don't know whether anybody's actually looked at the state of our economy. We are completely skint. We look as though we're going to be even more skint. And the first thing that a Conservative administration is going to do is give another 10,000 to a couple so that they can get on the housing ladder. Whereas the truth about the matter is, for 10,000 quid, if they are earners, then they're going to be able to find it themselves. So what is wrong with the Conservatives? Just try and save some damn money.
Yeah. Well, for context, Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, said that you'll get a £5,000 national insurance rebate to go to your first house if you're a young person. Yeah. I don't know when he last tried to buy a house, but I don't think £5,000 is a deposit anywhere.
There is that. I mean, there is that as well.
No, but it's £5,000 we haven't got, Ben. I mean, that's the truth about the matter. We are skint. I'm OK, yeah, and I'm delighted that won't be the case, by the way, after November the 26th. You can be sure about that.
All right, OK, coming up, look, in just a few minutes, we're going to bring you another front-page story here, and it's the latest on this alleged China spy trial collapse, and we're going to be speaking to Late Show Live host Bev Turner, live from Washington, D.C. Do you know tonight she's got someone on from Gaza? Stay tuned.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure is set to dominate our weather, which means many areas will see dry and settled conditions, though we can't rule out some light rain at times. And we'll see that light rain start to push into the far northwest this evening as frontal systems edging closer. A fair few isobars on the chart here too, so quite blustery at times, but otherwise high pressure sitting to the south, which means staying mostly dry, though we'll see some thicker clouds start to edge into Wales, southwest England. This could produce some odd spells of drizzle, particularly around hilly areas. But the main source of the rain will be pushing into parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland. It's quite a wet start here and quite cloudy for many areas, so remaining mostly mild. Most towns and cities dropping between 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. So once again, it is set to be another wet start across Scotland. It still could be fairly blustery around western coast, though those winds will ease away through the course of the day, perhaps seeing some brighter spells to the very far east of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland, once again, plenty of low clouds, some light outbreaks of rain. This will also start to push into northwestern parts of England. Wales and southwest England, once again, mostly dry, though plenty of low cloud, which could lead to a gloomy start and some patchy drizzle around hilly areas. Elsewhere, we could see some low cloud, mist and fog, but it should clear away fairly quickly through the morning and remaining mostly dry across much of England and Wales, perhaps more cloud around compared to this afternoon. Outbreaks of rain starting to edge into northern parts of England and Wales, but generally clearing across Scotland and Northern Ireland, so turning brighter here, just a few showers across the far north of Scotland. And it's still going to be warm in the sunshine, not quite as warm as this afternoon though, highs reaching around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. Now, some remnants of cloud and rain could start to skirt its way into southern parts through the early hours of Wednesday, eventually clearing through the afternoon. But for most, it should be another dry day, sunny spells, more cloud across Scotland once again with some blustery showers. But high pressure remains dominating for the rest of the week, so it should be mostly dry, a little cloudy at times, and temperatures around about average for the time of year.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Okay, welcome back to Late Edition. Just before we talk about what appears to be a rip-roaring scandal involving China and spies and government employees, we go now to the Late Show Live with Bev Turner. Bev, it sounds like you've got a very interesting show for us this evening, as ever, of course. What's going on?
Well, thank you, Patrick. Nice to see you. Look, we go on air. It will be October the 7th there in the UK. We're going to be seeing protests all around the world, of course. We're going to be talking to Australia, actually, at the top of the show to see what's happening there. It will be early morning over in Australia, and some of the sites that people are waking up to there, celebrating Palestine, of course, objecting to Netanyahu's response to October the 7th. But wherever you sit on this, a very poignant day. Donald Trump has been talking this afternoon, saying that he thinks that the hostages will be released soon. He thinks that that deal is going to be done. And you know, how do we want authorities to react to these protests? That's the question, isn't it? I'm a big civil liberties fan, as you know, Patrick. I don't think we should have extra rules clamping down on people who have things to say, even if they are awful things to say, which make people feel very uncomfortable. So we're going to be talking to loads of guests on that tonight. We're also going to be talking about the fact that Generation Z are all going back to church, back to Christian church, and what has inspired that. Obviously, the death of Charlie Kirk has been one of the catalysts for that particular issue. And we're going to also be keeping an eye on the Tory party conference and that GB News party. And trust me, as people get more and more drunk, the interviews are likely to get more and more fun. So that's all between midnight and 2 o'clock.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Bev. Bev Turner there with The Late Show Live, starting from midnight, taking you all the way through until 2 a.m. Bev, all the very best. So this is a story back to us here now. MI5 and the Home Office officials. It's on the front of the Telegraph. There you go. And MI5 and the Home Office officials were blindsided by the collapse of a Chinese spy case, according to the Telegraph. Christopher Cash, who worked for Tory MPs, and Christopher Berry, no relation to Sir Jake, who was on my sofa earlier, a teacher, were charged with passing intelligence to Beijing after being arrested in March 2023. However, the case was dropped last month, and the Telegraph revealed last week that the Labour government's refusal to declare China an enemy in court led to the collapse of the case. Before the case was dropped, though, Jonathan Powell, who is Sir Keir Starmer's top security official, is said to have told a top-secret briefing that the government would not declare China an enemy in court. Mr. Powell, who's the National Security Advisor, is expected to be questioned by senior parliamentarians in the coming weeks about his role in this case, although his special status as a special advisor means he cannot be compelled to appeal before them. Brilliant. Multiple political figures who've been briefed on the case have now told the Telegraph newspaper about tensions between the Home Office and the Foreign Office, with one Westminster source who was personally briefed by the Home Office and MI5 said they were blindsided and they're peed off. Another Westminster source who's spoken with Dan Jarvis, the Security Minister, has said he feels like he's been hung out to dry. I mean, look, we get the gist. So basically, right, Kelvin, I'll lob it over to you. So the allegation is that China infiltrated the very top of our politics. People were basically took bribes to spy for China. They were caught, and now mysteriously the whole case is going away.
Yeah, so there's two questions I have in there. Why on earth did they bother to go through the process at all? What was the point of them being charged when they knew full well that the government's position was that China was not an enemy? And the reason they don't think China's an enemy is because they spend a huge amount of money in our country, right? And they are more interested in the economics than they are in a very small case of spying. And the other issue I have is, why do we have a law that is so prescriptive that it's the word enemy which decides whether you're a spy or not, right? There's a hell of a load of things happening in our world which you can neither be a spy or a challenger, which is the word. And therefore, why don't we change the law? And that way we could charge these people.
Well, but the slight thing here that might make Labour wince a bit, I imagine it would, is if the National Security Advisor for Labour, Jonathan Powell, has essentially help to make this all go away.
Yeah.
For China.
I mean, that's not what you want your top guy in national security to be doing, to be covering for a hostile state that's spying on your country.
Well,
I mean,
is he a spy? Jonathan Powell, the spy, GB News, gets to the bottom of this.
Sorry, just for the sake of clarity, that was a joke. And if you are watching Mr. Powell from Beijing, now, if you're watching Mr. Powell, you're not a spy. He's not a spy.
Also, if you're watching...
He was in Beijing, but he's moved to Shanghai.
Right, okay.
Nice to see you, Jonathan.
Because, again, this is all a joke. This is humour. It's not real.
But it's interesting, you know, Benjamin was talking about the government meddling in the judiciary. I mean, what's bigger meddling than this? This is worse than deposing a few lefty judges. And I mean, I sort of understand. I understand the realpolitik of the situation. You know, as Kelvin says, you know, China, we're sort of dependent on China for a lot of stuff, in particular the technology to monitor and oppress our citizens. You know what I mean?
Well, Jonathan Powell has now been named as the new chairman of the Beijing Spying Corporation.
Chairman Powell. Oh, go on, Patrick. You're going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do here, mate.
For truth and for balance, I think Jonathan Powell is an extraordinary public servant who's had an amazing career going back decades. He was an advisor under Tony Blair as well. So I think he's a man of...
Hold on a second.
A man of great reputation.
What about the Iraqi war? Was he spying for the Iraq?
Yeah. Just stop digging.
The answer is no, but I mean, maybe I'll be in your seat as well next week at this rate.
Exactly.
But you know what? So first of all, I wonder whether the last government would have described China as an enemy. Was this inevitable? Was the whole thing a waste of time?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big thing for the state to call China an enemy. But the point I'd make is that actually they own massive parts of our infrastructure. They own 10% of Heathrow Airport. They own a similar stake in Thames Water.
Look what happens at Heathrow Airport.
And so actually, you know, if they really wanted to mess with Britain, to interfere, they've got billions, tens of billions of pounds of power.
We let them have Huawei. It's also their overreaction. I'm going to go to break a second, but their overreaction to things like, well, we had that treaty with them over Hong Kong, and they wanted to rush it through. And we started saying, well, hang on a minute, you're not sticking to the terms of this treaty that we signed together. And I'll never forget this. The Chinese bloke, I think it might have been the ambassador, went on BBC News, was like, well, if you want a war with China. We were like, no, we don't want a war with China. We're just asking you to, well, that's it then. If you want a war. So you imagine with this, it's like, oh, hey, guys, we've arrested a few spies. And you go, right, well, that's it. We're going to have Taiwan then. It's like, come on, guys, chill out. Anyway, coming up in just a moment.
Been in for 3 months. In that time, we've ended the junior doctors' strikes.
Yeah, they're going on strike again. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across the Mediterranean over the next couple of days. Plenty of showers around for the Canaries as we head through Tuesday afternoon. Perhaps some fairly brisk winds too. But for much of Spain, Portugal, southern parts of France and Italy, there'll be plenty of sunny spells on offer. However, for the Balkans, a lot of wet weather around, perhaps even some snow over the mountains. So definitely feeling a little bit cooler here with some brisk winds too. There is going to be more sunshine on offer as we head through the rest of the week, and temperatures quite widely into the 20s for most of us.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially
if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Now, sadly, the doctor will not see you now. That's right. First-year doctors in England have now voted overwhelmingly in favour of strike action. Great. They say that it's because of job insecurity. Well, if only there was a solution to that. The British Medical Association's first-year medics are prepared to stage further walkouts for the next 6 months over the lack of training posts available for them to develop their careers. Right, let's just talk about this, because we actually cap the amount of people who can study.
No. Actually, I was talking to a couple of consultants literally a couple of days ago about this. So the funny thing is, these people are going on strike because there are no jobs. And the other problem about that is, why are there no jobs in our hospitals? And not only in our hospitals, in our clinics and our GP surgeries and everything. And the reason for that is they are, by and large, dominated by doctors that we brought in from other places around the world.
So last year, or a couple of years ago, we allowed 10,000 British-born doctors to graduate. We imported 23,000, apparently.
Yeah, and it's clearly mad.
Yeah.
It is totally mad. So let's just test out the solidarity on the among the medical world on this particular issue, because the first time anybody starts saying anything about this, the junior doctors, somebody's going to shout out racist, and then before you know where we are, Gary Neville will be on the phone.
Sorry about this, guys. I know you were originally talking about that, but I've just been told this story, which I want to bring because we're press time. Israeli authorities have accused a Gaza flotilla activist of biting a member of their prison staff.
That's not vegan.
It's not vegan. No. It's in response to allegations of mistreatment during their detention. Israel's foreign ministry said the only violent incident was when one of the activists bit a female medical staff member at the prison. Apparently, the global Sumud flotilla has not responded to the allegation.
No, you know what they said? They're
a mouthful of Israeli prison guards. So there you go. But, I mean, there you go. I mean, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to see whether or not Greta's been having a nibble?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that's why they always hand them baguettes when they arrest them. That's to make sure they've got a full stomach so they don't get... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's... if that's true, that Israeli prison guard wants to get their jabs. A lot of those people in the flotilla look decidedly stinky.
Yeah, I mean, especially after however long they've been on that flotilla.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this comes in response to the fact that some of the people on the flotilla alleged, without any evidence that we've seen, that Greta Thunberg was abused by Israeli officials when she was taken into Israeli custody. Now, we've not seen any evidence of that. In fact, Greta Thunberg, when asked prior to this claim, didn't say it herself. She wouldn't explain what happened, and she looked quite happy. And then another person made the allegation. I'm not sure I trust their version of events. So that's how they've come about and said this. You wonder if they filmed it, right? They would presumably they want to protect their backs, and they would have filmed everything they were doing with these people. So let's hope so, to see if it can be proven. But, you know, the truth is, They have hardly any aid on these boats, and the Pope himself said, I'll take the aid and make sure it gets to the people in Gaza, and they said no. Because the truth is, it's all about the headlines and the publicity, not about the innocent people who I'm sure are going through hell.
All right. OK, I'm going to round up the newspapers for you again, and the UK Gaza protest going ahead today on the anniversary of the October the 7th massacre. The Times, PM's anger at student protests on October the 7th. The Daily Telegraph, MI5 kept in dark in China, spy trial fiasco. The Daily Mail, biggest phone gang smashed. So yes, they've smashed a phone gang that was sending a load of mobile phones over to places like Hong Kong. Apparently, this gang was responsible for half of mobile phone thefts stolen in Britain.
Whoa.
The Metro.
I wonder if they got Matthew, what's his name? Stadlin.
Oh, if they got Stadders.
Stadlin's phone.
Oh,
he might get it back.
Well, anyway, the Metro.
Pretty dull messages up there.
Time to call your lawyer. Police dismantle huge phone theft gang. The Daily Mirror. Hope in hell, it's a Gaza story. The Daily Express, Tories pledge a blitz on, quote, scumbag store thieves. The Guardian, Labour's new visa rules put NHS at risk, warn nurses. The Sun, romp in peace, Gilly. It's a memorial for Gilly Cooper. I'm also at pains to stress again, if you're listening or watching Jonathan Powell, we were joking before, there is no insinuation at all that you are indeed a spy. Let's go to The Late Show Live now, hosted by the one and only Bev.
Thank you, Patrick. Yep, I'm here in Washington, D.C. It will be October the 7th when we go on air, obviously there in the UK. We're going to be talking to people all over the world, actually, about the protests that are planned against the response to that date. Get in touch with me tonight. What are your thoughts on this day? And also, here in the US, Donald Trump is bringing in the troops against the wishes of local authorities.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless